All right, guys, we have a substantial injury report for Wednesday's practice today as the San Francisco 49ers get ready to face off against the Dallas Cowboys. Kyle Shanahan just spoke to local media and presented a bunch of information and things from that press conference. So let's get right into it. Starting with Deebo Samuel. As we know, he had pneumonia. He was hospitalized, fluid in the lungs. He was released from the hospital yesterday. But according to Kyle Shanahan, he is not practicing today, but he does have a chance to play. So this is my belief as well. Debo's the kind of guy who does not need practice um, throughout a game week. So with him and an illness, if he sits out today, he sits out tomorrow, produces a limited participation on Friday, I would expect he would play, even if he didn't practice at all. I still imagine Deebo Samuel will play, but there are some other big names that did not participate today that we are going to have to monitor definitely throughout the week, starting with George Kittle and Jennings. Now, obviously, we know George Kittle is dealing with a foot sprain. That came out of the game against the Chiefs. I do believe Kittle will play. I think Kittle's too gritty, man. He's too tough. He's not going to let a foot sprain keep him out. And, I guarantee you probably played through that game with a foot sprain, but did not participate today. So obviously that will generate some feelings from some fans. But again, I do think that is more precautionary than anything else. If we get into Thursday, Friday, and we're still getting DNPs, then my tone will change. But as it currently stands, I feel like he's going to be all right. So we'll continue to monitor that. Now, where it gets a little concerning, Kittle Jennings not practicing. As we know, he's a kind of a bit of a surprise DNP all last week, dealing with a hip injury, and he doesn't practice today. And as we know, he didn't play in that game, and the 49ers are already down uh, all their wide receivers. So not practicing today are obviously Brandon Ayuk, who was placed on injured reserve just not that long ago. Kittle Jennings didn't practice. We already talked about Deebo, who didn't practice. So your top three guys, one who's out for the season. This is again why we've talked about the potential need for the 49ers to go out and try to make a trade for a wide receiver, because again, the thought process is, yes, you've got some young talent and some high upside potential players, but injury is something that you cannot predict. You cannot rest on your laurels that everyone's going to be healthy throughout the season. So the fact that you've already lost your top guy and your other guys, 2 and 3 are banged up as well, and you're just like, oh, we'll rely on Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing and Chris Conley. What happens if that's your top three wide receivers for the entire season? Because knock on wood, something happens to Jawan and Deebo. So that's the proactive mindset when it comes to the trade conversations. We'll see if anything comes of that. But again, something to monitor and something that's, the Jawan thing, we don't know, right? Deebo, more optimistic. Jawan, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Kevin Givens doesn't practice today. That's an interesting one. We'll have to monitor that as well. I mean, Evan Anderson was elevated to the active roster today from the practice squad, and so if Kevin Givens can't go, Evan Anderson will fill into that role. Jordan Elliott not on the injury report, so that's good. So we'll see. Neither is Malik Collins. Moody didn't practice, to be expected. George Odom is new. He didn't practice today, and Trent Williams dealing with the vet day, which is per usual. We also had some limited participants. Nick Bosa, Jordan Mason, and Chris Conley are limited in today's practice. So for the top four wide receivers, I mean, you can quantify Conley however you want, but Conley is limited as well. So again, back to the original point of the reason why I do believe the 49ers need to go out and trade for a wide receiver is, I'm not saying trade the house for a wide receiver, but man, you got to insulate yourself with depth, because injuries. So we'll see what happens. You can see some of the gifs and the comments on my Instagram page. Some of the reactions. I'm sure the reactions are going to be very similar in the comments to this video. So looking forward to that. But again, so uh, with Bosa, why he's limited, he had for the first time I've ever seen, he had a big, bulky brace on his elbow in that game against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm not too concerned about it because clearly he had it heading into the KC game. So not really concerned about Bosa unless obviously, knock on wood, he aggravates it in practice. But hopefully, him being limited will keep him out of that situation. So we'll see. Jordan Mason limited as well. We'll see with him too. Obviously, he's been banged up. He runs very hard and he's definitely invites contact. So we'll have to see what his availability looks like as well as the week progresses. So typically, what Wednesdays are, again, if you're following along with the channel and our updates, and especially with practice updates, is this kinds of puts us on the track of what the trends are early on in the week and what we need to focus on as the week progresses. So obviously, we're going to be monitoring the wide receivers. We're going to be monitoring those guys, their practice availabilities. Are we having any concern with those guys playing? Obviously, Deebo, Jawan, Conley being at the top of the list. Thankfully, no Cowing, no Pearsall on the list. So we'll have to see about that. The 49ers did sign a practice squad wide receiver, Malik Turner. He's been with the 49ers 2 times now, so he knows what it's about. He understands the scheme. And he understands kind of what the 49ers got going on here. So if he needs to step in, he has the potential to. At one point, many believed he was going to make the active roster in 2022, but he just missed it based on some roster shuffling. But I'm curious to know how you guys feel about these updates. I'm curious to know, kind of, obviously coming off that, unfortunate game, unfortunate loss, and just overall poor performance by against the Kansas City Chiefs, losing your star wide receiver Brandon Ayuk and dealing with additional injuries and other things, like how you're feeling about this. So I want to hear from you. Let me know what you guys think about all of this stuff in the comments below. Are you concerned about these injuries? Do you, what I also want to know is, do you think the 49ers should go out and trade for a wide receiver? Because again, I've seen it both ways. So just trying to gauge a sense of the fan base of where you guys are at with that notion. Do you think they should? Do you think they should insulate themselves with more wide receiver depth, or just say we're going to rely on the rookies and we're going to go from there? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.